Hey everybody, hope you're doing well today. My name is Clint Alderman and I'm a potter from Northeast Georgia, and today I'm going to show you how I make swirlware. Swirlware is a type of pottery that was first produced in the early 1900s in western North Carolina by members of the Probst and Reinhardt families, and it combines different types of clay to create a swirl pattern, and those swirl patterns create different colors whenever it's fired. And I'll start by showing you the different types of clay that I use to produce it. First, I have my dark colored local dug clay. This will fire out a little bit of a darker color. I have a white clay, and then I have a blue clay. The blue clay has a touch of a mineral called cobalt oxide added to it, and when fired that'll turn a blue color. The white clay has a high quantity of a kaolin clay in it, and that will turn it white, and combined in the right proportions it'll create the swirl effect. I'll start by first incising my finger into it. I sort of fourth it, cut it into fourths, not really cut it, but run my finger around it in fourths, like so. This will provide a place to put the clay in to hold it where you can draw it up better. I break off a piece of clay like about that size and roll it out right here. And then I start adding them into these grooves that I've just made. This is just my own way of doing it. Different people and different potters that have made it over the years have used different techniques to produce it. Some like to stack the clay on top of each other. They like to slice it and then stack it on top of it itself, and that creates a swirl effect as well. But this is just the way that I got used to doing it. And I'll add those. I'll do 4 of each color. And I go almost to the top, but I don't connect them. And then I'll repeat the same process. This clay has already been wedged, so it's ready for turning. I went ahead and did that before the video started. But if you'd like to see that process, you can see that in my other video called Turning a Jug. Next I'll get some of the blue clay and roll it out. And I leave a little bit of variation in it. I try not to worry about whether it's too straight or not. Once it gets on the wheel, it will blend together and you won't get a lot of difference in it. So push that in there, and I just sort of guess at the sizes of it. If you want to get it where it's a little more precise, you can try to match it up better. But I always like a little bit of variation in it, so that's the way I like to do it. Okay, now once all of those are in there, you can see the way it looks. I like to pound the bottom and smooth out these areas right there just a little bit to get it where it won't create any air pockets whenever you put it on the head block of the wheel. Pound it a few times like this. Then I'll bring it over here and put it on the wheel. Okay, let me move the camera. And hopefully you'll be able to see that pretty good. Now I'll start turning it. I start by centering it. That'll help keep it straight while it's on the wheel. If you don't center it good, it'll fall down while you're trying to make it. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now I'll open the ball up. Try to guess as best I can at the thickness at the bottom. If the bottom is too thin, it'll crack. So you don't want it to be too thin. And if it's too thick, it'll take longer to fire. And if you don't fire it long enough, it can have a higher tendency to blow up while it's being fired. Okay. Now I'll draw the wall up just by pressing it in and up. And I center the top back out again. It's always important to keep a good centered top on one. If your top starts wobbling, your whole piece will start to wobble. So you want to keep that good and straight. Now I'll start drawing the wall up. As I draw it up, it gets it a little bit thinner each time. A little thinner and a little taller. This is going to be a pitcher, and with pitchers, it's always a good idea to make the bottom a little bit wider. If you don't leave the bottom wider, they'll have a tendency to want to wobble when you go to shape them. So you want to keep it nice and straight. it's ready to start shaping. Trim the bottom off like that. And then I'll start smoothing the outside out by pushing in with my left hand towards the chip. And this is where the part where all the swirl will really start to come out. You'll really start to be able to see it good now. You can see it drawing up really well right there. And I like to bulge it a little bit in the center towards the base slightly. That'll just give it a little more unique shape. Pull the top in a little bit. And shape it a little bit more. Just sort of push it in and up like that. Looks like it could use just a little thinner top. Give it a little thinner top rim and a slight bit more bulge. Just a little bit. Not too much. After I do that, I like to take the inside, take the edge of my chip on the inside and clean off some of the excess clay, and that'll make the swirl show up a little bit better on the inside as well. Okay, now let's check it one more time. And it may need just a little bit more bulge, not much. One thing about a piece, if you're standing close to it, it'll look one way, but if you stand back away from it, then it'll look another way. So if I'm trying to get good symmetry, I like to stand back away from it to get the shape just right and take a look at it from a vantage point that's further back. Okay. Now that looks about right. Let's get that rim just right. Now I'll get the water out of the bottom of it. If you don't get the water out of the bottom, it'll crack. So I put this sponge down in it, and that'll take care of that. And that's a finished picture. Now what I'll do is I'll flute the top. You flute it just by doing that. Simply you fold it up and press in. And that's a finished picture. As you can see the different swirl patterns, the light clay, the dark clay, and the blue. And when it fires, it'll have some really pretty color to it. This is sort of what it will look like once it's fired. I don't know if you can see that. Let me get that clay off of it. But it'll have some pretty blues, and it'll be sort of a striped pattern, sort of like it appears there. There's the a close-up right there of it. But that's how a swirl picture is made. Tomorrow I plan to add a face to it. I'll do a video on that, so stay tuned, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks.